evening, convict. How are you? How is your Wednesday treating you? That's not a flattering angle. Now relaxed is what we do. I know you're not cooking along with this, but she'll give it a few minutes in case anyone actually wants to. I don't think anyone has actually sent me a message saying they'd like to cook along with this, but just in case I can get started on at least the prawns and leave some of them as a demonstration. I've seen the good Mr. Omega and his brand new desk is looking very shiny. In fact, I said I'll do these, but I actually need to wash them first. Hang on a minute. Oh. There we go. That's a bit better. There we are, right. Yes, it's been quite a busy old day, this one. Sort of wondering how on earth it got to sort of 5:30 and we're still going. As indeed Mrs. L still is. Hope you and the family are well. I know that you're taking Tuesdays and Wednesdays off now. I have your schedule as best as I can in the old noggin. So always starting with, and I shall repeat this again. Do you guys? We do. We at the moment, not normally, but COVID has sort of. We're in a position where we can both work from our home offices, which obviously is very nice for me. I get to see Mrs. L more than I would otherwise be roaming around the country. So, in case you're interested, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, Convent. I'm sure you know this, but all I'm doing is removing the tracts from the inside of the prawns, just because they're the inedible bit. That's the. Do you know what it is? I'm assuming here, but shall perhaps even provide a modicum of intelligent information. So yes, we both have. I've been meaning once the desk is clear to do my own setup picture in the same way as Omega has done. I keep sort of going, I must do that, and then forget. It's like the Discord thing. So you know exactly what it is. Yes, there you go. I know some people. It's interesting actually, because some supermarkets say, these are your ready prepared prawns, ready to cook, and they never are. How on earth can that be considered ready to cook? It's a digestive tract. Don't read that. The knife size is possibly the wrong one for this, but do about 3/4 of these and sort of give it until about 10 past, I think, and then if people aren't cooking along, then we can all just chill, and I shall speed up with the slicing. Whoops, daisy. So, you normally buy. You see, that was the interesting thing, because you buy them already cooked. Ah, right, okay. So I've got king prawns. You see, they're raw and peeled, and prepared, ready for cooking. We're actually, I have to say, no, close. You're nearly ready for cooking. Minus this one last, but all important manoeuvre. And here is Sexy. Hello, Sexy. How are you today? Are you cooking along with us, Sexy, or are you just coming in for a nice chin wag and a put your feet up? And how is I keep saying Tuesday, how's your Wednesday going? God, the week is just flying away. I always love an entry as well, which is the chicken emojis, just bam. Here comes Sexy. Hello, Mr. Nosler. How are you? You're resting today, Sexy. Jolly good show. How are you, Mr. Nosler? How are you and Joe? It seems like forever. It seems a long time since we've had the pleasure of your company. Are you both keeping well? For those that haven't met before, Joe and Mr. Nosler were basically our first two chaps on the scene and have put up with my varying ineptitudes right from the start. That's sexy doing. Blimey, right, you're putting me to shame then, sexy then, doing both a morning and an afternoon session. I have done a morning and an afternoon session of drinking coffee. That's been about it. Now, what's the time? Let me just check. There we go. So we're about 10 past. So I think anyone that was probably planning to cook along would already be here. So let's just say, Mr. Nosler, are you and Joe ready to go, or do you want a couple more minutes just before we start going through this? I'm not doing anything by the way that you need to catch up with yet. Just been busy and caught my... what are we doing first, cooking-wise? That's sexy, I still live up to that. You've got all that chicken bulk or something. Yeah. What we're doing first then, Mr. Nosler, is take your prawns, and what we want to do is just take... In fact, I'll come close to the camera. Unless you've got them ready prepared, you will see here along the inside a little black line. Now that's the digestive tract of the prawn. Now we don't really want to eat that. In fact, you don't want to eat that at all. Oh, sexy. Oh, that's very kind of you. I'm really glad you enjoy them. We try and be a relaxed little corner of the world, an antithesis to the goings-ons, the trials and tribulations. So, so all we want to do is run your... In fact, I'll repeat that again in case... So I'll pick another one here. So I normally nip the top and the tail off the prawn. And then it's quite hard with such a small... Find your digestive tract and run the blade from the top to the bottom along the black line. Just enough that you're basically piercing into the flesh of the prawn. Then I use the end. So you're just lifting it up. And then I'm applying very little pressure at all. Just push. And it ought to lift up fairly gently and out. There may be a little lateral discoloration, but for the most part, there you can see now it's a pure white. And that's what we're after. And that's all our start point is, chaps. So I will carry on. You let me know just as soon as you've done all your prawn prep, and then we'll put that to one side. I'm going to be a little bit lazy, and I'm just going to lift this entire chopping board to one side and then redeploy another one for the other ingredients. And I see Jason has snuck in. Hello, Jason. How are you? So enjoying watching his... I didn't know what that skateboarding game was, but I had it on in the background. It was remarkably soothing. I've never skateboarded. I think that's probably best for all concerned. Yes, I can bump into things that are, quite frankly, not even in the way when I'm on my 2 feet. I'm not quite sure what havoc I would wreak if I were also provided a skateboard. Don't imagine it would end particularly well. There we go. So we've got Sexy here has been in and out of the gym. We've got... I know Convict has been busy today as well. How have you been, Jason? What have you been up to? I must confess, it's one of those days for myself and Mrs. Owl, who's sadly not joining us right now. You sort of start the day and then you go, dear God, the day is finishing. How on earth did that happen? So here we are. Again, just in case anyone wants to try this in the future, just run your blade just gently into the flesh of the prawn. I realise that I got my finger in the way, which doesn't really help. We might be a little while. I have to say, don't worry, don't rush. Doesn't help that they're tiny. Yes, I must admit I've got the wrong size knife, and these are quite small. But don't worry, we'll take it slow. Be careful as well, because I don't want you to rush and catch your fingers on it. Very chill and easy to... Oh, jolly good. Jolly good. Working... Oh, you're still going. Oh, right. I should stop bemoaning the fact of my working day then. Other people are still on the go. Dear me. So, in fact, I'll try and demonstrate as best I can, but prawn's been quite small. the camera angles only being in one direction. So I'm just, as I say, from the start there, down and a lock. I have got a nice smaller greener knife, but I do like that one for the vegetables, to be honest. It's odd to have favourite knives, really. I mean, I suppose we all do. We've got our sort of favourite implements for various bits and pieces. And say on this one as well, you can see just a little discoloration on the outside. Doubt that would be particularly appetising, so we'll just get rid of that. Little top and tail. In fact, whilst we're just, again, gently going through this, Mr. Nosler, for you and Joe, do you know if your lemons were waxed or not when you bought them? I shall explain for those that are not in the know. But in short, a waxed lemon contains, well, wax, which you don't really want to eat again. But there is a neat way to sort of prepare them for what we're going to do. See, these are also, you can probably see from the discoloration on the board, once you start to try and sort of take them up, they just sort of smear unpleasantly. So I'll probably give these another wash before we set them to one side. There we go. Now, what you may find interesting is we're having a nice and a gentle chat of it all, and we're slowly making our way through. But I picked up this particular recipe from, well, actually, where did I get it from? Worry not, we are unwaxed. Jolly good. Mine are waxed, so I shall demonstrate what's one way to deal with it. Mostly just because I couldn't get a hand on any other ones. I think it was in fact my older brother who said that he'd spotted this recipe and suggested I have a look. And then the fact that it was Gordon Ramsay and he challenged the world that you can make this inside of 10 minutes. I thought, well, that crinkly-faced, shouty Scottish man, I shall accept your challenge. It turns out 10 minutes is quite hard. So there should be still, I hope they're still there, but we downloaded the various videos to our YouTube channel, and I tried it 3 times. I think we went from 17 minutes to 15 minutes, and then working quite frankly like a Tasmanian devil, I got to 13. At which point I hung up my competitor's gloves and I said, no more. I cannot top 13 minutes. Oh, has it got louder? Oh, sorry, beg your pardon. The thing is, I'm playing it through the phone on Spotify, and I think certain tracks are just a little bit louder than the other ones. Sorry, I didn't mean to deafen anybody. But having tried it, it's become very quickly a favourite meal of Mrs. Owl's and I's preferences. And it's, I'll be honest, it comes out a lot better when you prepare it at a more genteel pace. And in fact, I sense Mr. Nosler and Joe have sensed my need to come and tell you about lemons. So whilst they're finishing off doing their prawns, I shall demonstrate what to do if your lemon happens to be waxed. We'll also wash the prawns at the same time. So that's my last one. I love quick cooking. It's what I... is that quick or duck? Quick cooking. I'll happily do more challenges. And time challenges and things. But once I've done them, you do this one now, you actually get a much better flavour the slower you do it, which maybe he should probably put in his challenge. And so once you've done it, what you should do is find yourself a Twitch channel, get all your ingredients out in a nice cup of coffee, and then take your time with it. Because I find that far more enjoyable. So, hang on, I tell you what, I'm going to wash the prawns first. So, I don't think anyone needs to see prawns running through a stream of water, so just bear with me a moment. Set them to one side. swap in our preferred chopping board. Oops, don't want that. There we go. Lovely. I shall clean that up in due course. Okay. So if you happen to have a recipe and you need to zest the outside of a lemon, and you accidentally get one that's waxed, a good start is to get yourself something like this, some rough sea salt. Take the lemon and just pop a little bit of this into your palm, as so. And then literally all you want to do is just grind salt. So what you're basically doing is you're just breaking down the wax on the outside. I'm just thinking if you say, for example, you know, got sore hands or something, I'm sure there'll be other ways of doing this. You could pop it in a bowl with the salt and just run that over instead. So then all I'm going to do is, having done this, is run this under the water, and that should do us nicely. So you say it's what you miss the most, Colin. Do you mean back? Yes, I mean, to be honest, you have hit the nail on the head. That this is more a sort of, oh, whoops moment, I shouldn't really have bought this one. How can I now fix the situation? Well, I'm now using my hand as basically a grater, which you know is a way forward. It's just maybe not the best way forward. So let's do that with our second one as well. Yes, it's the reactivity. It's the sort of, you can improvise, you can change. I mean, technically speaking, the reason why I can say this is now kind of our take on the Gordon Ramsay recipe is because I've changed it several times. You know, I've adapted it, moved it out. I think he even recommends coriander at one point. He isn't not that much of a fan of coriander, so just say, no thank you. Take it out. Much more of a fan of the basil that will go in. And I've just flung salt across the kitchen, which is, again, an example of why you're better off just getting the right lemon in the first place. And then you don't have to do any of that. So, let's move that. Clear up the mess we've just met. I say we. The royal we. We're all here and having some fun. So let's do that. Pop that back. You don't like? Oh really? Oh, you're not a fan of basil? That's all right. Well, again, the nice thing about this recipe is you just sort of change it out and put in, you know, whatever herb kind of suits you best. If you wanted to chop it out and do, what's FLYS? Forgive my Luddite tendency and not knowing what abbreviations are. So I'm just going to wash off the salt. Yeah. So, again, why this recipe is nice and straightforward. Oh, flies don't like the smell of basil. Oh, right, oh, don't they? Oh, I didn't know that. No idea. So, do you know, I should just check with those cooking along with us. Mr. Nosler, Joe, how are you getting along? Are you ready for the next stage? So I will get started if you are, because all we do, prawns done, jolly good. Grab your lemons, and all we're going to do is just grate. So all we just want is the zest for now into a appropriately sized bowl. Try not to get any of the white pith, and I shan't, I think, for what will now be the fourth time, make the joke about it taking the pith. Except I think I just, oh. Well, that's what the coffee machine thinks. Right, okay, try it. Didn't think much of that joke. Might be worth remembering that about the flies, actually. sort of keep it around, you can glue it around your bins, I suppose. That would be quite helpful. So yes, I know some of you will have seen we are, the moment is coming for hot wings and potential awful morning side effects. Been looking up with interest various different ways in which one can cook a hot wing. I was surprised to find there were that many different methods. Mint and lavender flies don't like. Oh, didn't know that. And I'm a big fan of both of those. Oh, and for Mr. Nozzle and Joe's benefit, if you keep back just a little bit of the zest, it's quite a nice thing to sprinkle on top, along with some of the basil. Convict, no basil for you. How many lemons? Just the two. 2 lemons. He says, checking his own recipe quickly. Yes, 2. I think this is the 4th, 5th, 6th time I've done it. I'm surprised. Well, then again, actually, I say I'm surprised I'm still using the recipe. There's one time, poor Mrs. Owl, she was waiting for this dinner that she had a particularly hard day and was waiting for me to make this. And I got the chili measurement completely wrong and nearly blew our heads off. But it shows, I'll pause from nattering gently and say, one useful thing about following the tip of grating in one direction rather than backwards and forwards is when you're done, take your knife, run along the back, and it makes it quite a, well, I'm now making this look harder than it actually is, but it sort of nicely clumps together. It makes it quite easy. You're dropping names here. Tess going out. Am I? Oh, yes, it can be any brand of basil that you like. You can get it from your garden, all the better. So just shuffle it out of the way. It's eagle-eyed of you, convict. Well spotted. Good grief. What else can you spot in the background? You'll see where I bought this curtain pole from in a minute. Yes, we don't do branded food. You can buy your basil wherever you like. Provided it's fresh. And obviously if you can get it from a local farmer or the like, it's all to the better. Just whilst we're doing this, I'll also ask, again, Mr. Nosler, what sort of pasta have you got? Is it fresh? Or is it dried pasta? I've just thought, because I'm using fresh, it cooks quite quickly, whereas if yours is dried, you might want to get it on now, just to make sure it's nice and soft. Cool. Starting to think maybe I should actually tag some of these kitchen streams as just ASMR. We just sort of put it closer to the camera. This is ASMR lemon grating. Don't know who's out there that's really particularly interested in these things, but I suppose each their own. It still sort of amazes me that that anyone is particularly that interested to hear me nattering away and cooking in the kitchen. I'm deeply privileged in more ways than one, I think I've been told in the past. But it's always lovely to chat to you good folk. In fact, whilst we're making this, I suppose I can also do the round-robin question. What is for everyone's... you need to... Maybe I should start doing that as well, and late night just sort of do gentle reading of various books and see if I can make people nod off. Nursery rhymes and things. There we go. I think most of this. I think it's very... Do you know, I never thought I did until people actually were suggesting here. Actually, that's one of the reasons that people... I'm deeply flattered. And it does spark the creative thought of, well, maybe I can do something with that. I don't know what to do with it. Read... do you know what... Wait there a sec. Hang on. can maybe do even better. Just whilst you're Pat. How do we fancy 50 Shades of Gravy? I loved getting this book. Oh, I'm not sure I'm going to read that one. Would anybody like a quick reading from 50 Shades of Gravy? So I'm going to pick one here that's not going to have Twitch. Oh my god, is there even one that I can... I'm trying to find one here that I can actually read without Twitch censors shutting me down. I think this may be the best, and I can't read that one. I can't read that one. I definitely can't read that one. Absolutely no. Good God, no. Do you save it? We do save our videos, Convert. We absolutely do. I tell you what, I'm going to start with this. This is the least offensive I've found so far. And if it gets too offensive, I'm going to have to simply say, not going to say that. So here we go. This recipe is called the disappointing chipolata. Runny honey and rustic whole grain mustard mini bangers. Who wants a chipolata when a jumbo king-size sausage is available? Well, actually the answer is that plenty people do, all right? So it's entirely ironic. Whilst there's no doubt a big sausage has some sort of lowest common denominator, quote-unquote, battering ram appeal, the true sausage fiend knows that a little one works harder for your love, and in the hands of a master can be a... not going to say that. My recommendation for a party is to dip your chipolatas in... No, not going to say that either. That way... No, can't say that either. Oh. God. Cooking instructions. Let's get messy. Preheat the oven to 200 degrees C. Mix honey and mustard and smear on tiny sausages. I think we can just about get away with that. Cook for 25 minutes or until cooked through and crisp on outside. Well, that's just a cooking instruction for sausages. Mix together the sour cream, paprika and mint and place in a dipping bowl and serve alongside your... I'm not going to say that word. There we are, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe we'll have to do occasional... Maybe that can be one of the chat points things that it generates and say, you know, do a reading from 50 Shades of Gravy. Censored appropriately. Oh, dear me. Having taken that... God. Dear me. Now, how are we getting along, Joe, Mr. Nosler? Have we got our... I've got our zested lemon? Because the next thing I'll suggest we do, because we can put this all in the same bowl, is if you get your chili flakes, you want 2 teaspoons, not as I did 2 tablespoons. Although if you do make the mistake, I'm pleased to say the recipe will carry it. There you go. Or do that could be a dramatic reading from a cookbook. So 2 teaspoons of Super Duper. Add in 2 teaspoons of chili flakes. I've used our Korean ones because that's what we've got. Now, let's see. What do we need next? I think, very simply put, we'd probably be quite well served in getting our shallots prepared. Now, I could only get quite small ones, and suddenly this 50 Shades of Gravy is echoing in my head inappropriately, so let's move on. And all we want to do, because I'm going to throw in quite a few, but normally you'd get them sort of about that large for a shallot. These are quite small, so I'm going to use quite a few. It depends how big your shallots are. 2 teaspoons of super... You know what? It does look rather good, even when it's in its prep stage. I do like it for its appearance. So I am also at this point, because we're going to get sort of close to being able to put the pasta on, because it really is... I'll be honest, I'm probably slowing everybody down by just chatting away. It's a very quick one to do, but the shallots being quite small will be a little bit fiddly. go. So that's just... What are yams? I think a yam is... Maybe someone from America can tell us, but I think quite similar to an aubergine, I think. I think that's right. So well, let's just get the... Oh, this shot's fighting back. And I'm going to assume I'm combining names here. Mr. Nosler. Nosler, I'm going to assume your shallots are bigger than mine, and everyone behave, and sultry books, and now we're all getting... I say all, I've no idea. Me, at least, is getting all flustered by hot and depraved books. Never been called Mr. Con. Mr. Con, it's polite. It's sort of Mr. President kind of thing. So what I'd suggest is cut it lengthways from essentially the end that you've topped and tailed. But honestly, no one's going to criticise you if that's not how you choose to chop your shallots. There we go. And the time we were doing the competition, I think Mrs. Al had her eyes closed because it was getting, shall we say, perilously close to my fingers. And again, just sharing a technique that I again picked up from the same video to get this recipe, of chopping lengthways until you get close to your fingers, and then actually take what's left, turn it on its side, and you'll actually have an easier time of chopping. You'll get more of it, more evenly done. So I'll just show that one off again. So just chopping lengthways. Oops. Also helps if your knives are razor sharp. When you get to the end, you need to dig out some... Don't worry, take your time, I shall chop slowly. So we turn. And chop at the end. Gives time for another reading of 50 Shades of Grey. There we are. Let's just clear up a little whilst we're at it and get our water ready to boil. So actually, that's the question Mr. Nosler, you are such a star and a gentleman. Thank you so very much. I'm sorry we haven't got the dance and the spangle, so we shall do dance and spangle. Here we go. Mr. Nosler. Thank you. You're an absolute star. You have been yourself and Joe right from the very beginning. When it's just you and we just chatting about whether or not it's a Heinz baked bean or a Branston, of which, of course, this is a channel which brokers no opposition. It must be Heinz. The two bean revolutionaries, the Che Guevaras of the baked bean world. Mr. Nosler, thank you ever so much. So again, going slowly because I know you guys are chopping away. So take at the end. When you get close and you're worried about your fingers, move away, turn back onto its end. And fireworks pop. Did they really? I have no idea how I've done that comment. Well, Joe, my absolute pleasure to you both. It's been absolutely lovely having you here from the start. The number of times I think it's just been you and me and Mr. Nosler and just talking about nothing more than the nature of baked beans in the world has been my absolute pleasure and privilege. I think she may be on the phone at the moment, so I should also say thank you very much from Mrs. Owl too. I knew that she would want me to say that. So, because these are quite small, we're aiming for 3 large shallots. So I've just sort of done a handful of these small ones, which is all I could get a hold of. Oh dear me, they are doing a number on my eyes too. Ooh. Oh dear me, stinging. Oh, Goodness gracious, let's get some of that out of the way. I think this is stinging. God help me on Saturday. Dear me. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Actually, I know for those of you that saw the making of the hot sauce, while in my research I found out that I'm missing a... oh, goodness gracious, we have a rebel. We have a rebel in the form of Convict. However, Convict is an utterly lovely gentleman, so we shall... we must have him here. We will tolerate all views. Even if, I must say, Convict, I think the majority are against you, but you can fly that revolutionary flag and just sort of be a man on your own. For Mad Max, for... you don't eat me. You're Mad Max, even though you're not involved. You're there sort of flying the flag in the other direction. Never understood the premise of Mad Max. It just seems like everything is exploded. It's quite confusing in that regard. Or maybe I fell asleep in the film, I'm not entirely sure. Oh, sorry, I appreciate I'm now possibly... all I'm slowly going to do, chaps who are cooking, is I'm now just taking only the skin off the cloves of garlic. Don't chop them up. I will show you why. And actually, don't top and... well, you can take one end off the garlic. So say, for example, you got the hard nub there. I want you to leave that and just chop the end off the other end. And I shall demonstrate why it is a technique I had never heard of. And now that I've found it, I absolutely love it. So I'm just going to take... in fact, I think I'd planned for 3 cloves. However, the last one is a bit of a whopper, and again, I'm cooking to my audience. Mrs. Owl is not a fan of overpowering garlic, so rather than taking this colossal whopping clove and adding that into the mix, I shall leave it. So take your 2 prepared garlic cloves and just put them onto one edge. Right. Have a sip of coffee, gents, and you let me know where you're up to. That's very good coffee. Actually, some water might be a good idea. I barely had any today, so folks, let's all collectively be healthy. If you've not had any water in recent memory and you can't remember when you did, get yourself a little drink of water. Also, again, not sponsored, it's just these bottles are very good. So I'll pop that there. Right, so we've got that prepared. Nice bit. You're a man that makes his own path, Convict. Save. You know what? Genuinely, actually, just whilst the chaps are getting their shallots ready, there is a very valid point to this. Is that actually the sheer number of bottles that you don't use, and actually I found that you ended up, particularly with driving around and travelling around the country a lot. If you've got a decent water filling point here and there, you really don't need to buy a bottle. You save an awful lot of waste. But there's a few train stations I go through now that have actually got with the setup, they'll actually tell you how many bottles have been saved just by going to their one usage point. But what I might do is just quickly wash these as well. So particularly if you're buying from the likes of your local greengrocer, coming straight from the farmer, always give them a wash. Because you never know. So, now, over to you, Comet. What's for dinner for you tonight? What are you and the family having? Or have you already had it? I know you're not a fan of basil confit, but smell this. It makes me want to actually make our homemade pesto again. I think it's lovely. And of course, each to their own. It's the same. We're not that much of a fan of coriander. I can imagine a lot of people, particularly with Indian cooking, would think that we were crazy. So here we go. And don't worry, gents. I know that you're chopping away. I'm not rushing ahead. You are missing nothing. Take your time. Because when we actually come to cook, all of the prep in advance, which makes us a doddle. Go to France and they have free spring water and sparkling water from taps in all cities. Oh, really? Goodness. Do you know actually there's a place I've never... Well, I've passed through France. But I've never lingered. Oh, you had chicken. Oh, jolly good. Can't really go too wrong with that. Sexy, where are you? What? Stand up for the chicken. You really can't go wrong with a bit of chicken. So I must admit, for later on, I know you and I have talked about it, Con, but the idea of the celebration streams, the one down the line, I'm going to have to think of what I consider to be the pinnacle of a chicken dish to fulfill the moniker of almost a set. Hang on. Back to 50 Shades of Grey. Is it a chicken recipe? Hang on, let's see if there's an index. There is not. Well, hang on, we've got contents. Shall we see if there's anything that appears to be chicken and I can read out loud? I can't read that. God. That's the closest chicken recipe we're going to. Chicken super. Hunter's chicken's quite good, but it's only if you like melted chicken. Polo Primavera is a good one. Chicken wrapped in Parma ham. I feel like chicken breasts covered in... Well, I'm not going to read the rest of this. But it involves a kumquat and herb stuffing. Yes. Shan't be reading the rest of this then. Filthy book. Yes, when done right, it's a cracking dish, isn't it? How are we getting along, gents? Are you there with your shallots? Because I tell you what I will do is the next thing, and start slowly, is you want to start chopping your tomatoes real easy. There's not much more than, I mean, my personal preference, I take out the end here, which is being hung on the branch. But you want them in halves, so you're not cutting them any further than a half. So, just like that, because we're going to blanch them. And they're going to sort of take that nice roasted, kind of wrinkled edge to them. Oh, you're already slicing the basil? Right, jolly good. Right, okay. So, if you're doing your basil, no problem at all. I shall just quickly do the tomatoes whilst you're doing the basil. And obviously you can basil to taste. I put quite a bit in, just because we really like the oomph of flavour. I've basically taken just a big handful. I can't actually remember what measurement I put actually in the recipe for basil. I should probably know that. So just nice straightforward halves. And also, it was Mrs. Owl's recommendation, because the first time we had it, her first thing she said was that this could take more of the central ingredients, give a real kind of sort of punchy flavour. Tangled Gravity, thank you very much for joining us. Welcome in. Welcome. Do you know what? So are we, Tangled. Hello, and a marvellous and lovely Wednesday to you. It's a good evening from us here. I hope you're well. I hope you're having a marvellous day. You've just joined us at the prep stage, and we've got Convict here, Sexy Chicken, as well. He's been around. And Mr. Nosler and Joe are currently cooking along with us. Hello, Smoke. How are you doing? How have you enjoyed your first streams? Are you well? You're a star for dropping on in. I know you're busy, and I know you can probably only lurk. It's lovely that you've done so. Thank you for stopping in. So I'm going to catch up with Joe and Mr. Nosler, who are joining in with us. So we've got our tomatoes, we've got our shallots, we have our chilli and zested lemon. We're just going to do a rough chop of the basil, I'll be ripping and tearing and dressing the balls at the end with a little bit as well, but there's don't need to be too formal with this. We'll turn us around in a minute because then it's all about the cooking. I suppose what's quite nice about this as well is this is something that you could definitely introduce kids to seafood with, and you can get them involved. I'll be honest, I think you probably need kids' knives for large chunks of it, but it's a very safe kind of dish, and it's very tasty, and you know, it kind of, I suppose if the adults do the prawns and you sort of get them to eat them before they work out what they are, if you're having a kid that's struggling with seafood, hey presto, you know, no scary heads and things and bits and pieces like that. Right, we are almost there, I think. And the nice thing as well is that if you serve it in small bowls, just keep your basil nearby, and when you come to replate, if you want a bit more, just quickly chop it through. Fresh cold basil will be lovely. Mr. Nosler, Joe, I'm going to suggest, pop your kettle on at this point, because we want 118 millilitres of fish stock. And if your pasta's not already on, I'd get it on now, particularly if it's not fresh, because hopefully you heard me say that. If it's not fresh pasta, I hope it's already on. Ours is fresh pasta, so it'll be very quick indeed. So you're watching it, jolly good. Do you know what? I haven't had a chance to come and say hello and see it, but I shall go and watch the catch-up. What we are making is a very simple prawns and pasta dish, but the base is shallots, tomatoes, fresh basil, lemon and chilli, and we're going to demonstrate a garlic technique as well. It's all thanks to a Gordon Ramsay recipe where he challenges you to do it in 10 minutes, and the videos are out there of me trying this. So, from any supermarket you like, get yourself some fresh Oregon tagliatelle. Exactly. You know, in fact, it's one of my favourite cooking phrases. Comes from Carluccio, who's sadly not with us anymore, the Italian chef, who described it as moth. And after I saw when he said that, I went, what on earth, moth? It means minimum of fuss, maximum of flavour. That is truly Italian to me. And I think it's a most wonderful mantra for cooking. Because yes, it can get complicated. Yes, it can be quite out there and outlandish. But actually, keep it simple. So here we go. Right, where's my jug gone? That's a good question in life generally. So there we go. Got one jug. Let's try and get... Actually, I've got some scales. That will make this even easier. Where are the scales? There we go. Let's do it over here. So, units, millilitres, and we would like 118 if you please. Hey, what do you know? Spot on, 118. Lovely, right. So, slowly get the fresh pasta cooking. I'll turn us around in a minute, folks, don't you fret. I'll show you what we're up to. So, just to check with those that are cooking along with us, in fact, and Joe, Mr. Nosler, are you ready to start cooking? Is everything chopped and prepared? Are you good to go? Because if so, I'll turn the camera around and I'll show you what we're going to be doing. Also, fish stock. I will eventually make some from scratch, but failing which, if you're in a hurry, there you go. Minimum of fuss. So let's just give that a little stir. You do not have fish stock. You should be, yeah, absolutely. If you've got any stock, that will do quite nicely. If you've got vegetable stock, just give yourself a little bit. If you don't worry. The recipe will carry it for you. I'd suggest if you haven't got vegetable, I wouldn't stray into chicken and beef. I'd just leave it at that point. And of course, a little bit of wine to deglaze the pan. Or drink. I think we'll go for deglazing. I think it's probably the better idea. So, if we're all ready, let's turn us around. Here we go, upon the shaky camera angles. Right. I imagine most of us know about cooking pasta, but enough water to cover. Going to give us a little salt. Because this is all gentle cooking, I'm just going to put that onto a low heat and wait for the bubbles to come through. Right. So chaps who are cooking, first thing you want is your pan onto a relatively high heat just to get it hot. Whatever you do, don't touch the actual pan. And that also means, to all of you, Tangled, Smoke and Convicts and everyone else, we're actually rapidly coming to the end of our stream. So thank you in advance for joining us. Don't worry, we won't be racing away at the end. But this just shows the prep makes all of this now very, very straightforward. So let's just see how we're doing. Right. This is where I shall be whipping out 50 Shades of Grey again. Most inappropriate. Put your hand in a hot fryer before. Oh, good lord. Oof. That's a definite oof moment. Grief. Not pleasant. There we go, I'm getting a fairly nice heat. So we want to anyway just, once it's got up to a hot heat, I'll put it in Ainsley Harriet level drizzle of oil, namely little but not really. And then we're going to pop our shallots in. Nice sizzle. But in truth, I've already going to turn it down a little bit because I want them to caramelise, not burn. And again, this is slightly different from the Gordon Ramsay 10-minute challenge because his was get it onto an absolute eye-watering heat and cook it really quickly. Whereas actually, when we slowed it down, we found we enjoyed it more. You've had your fair... Oh, yes. I had a fair bit of that whilst we were making the jam. Sort of marks of being a aficionado of the kitchen. So, chaps who are cooking along, don't need to do too much with this. In fact, I haven't really been generous enough with the old oil, so I'm just going to... Oh. What I want to do is just wait for a little bit of caramelisation on some of the onions. Just that slight browning. Although of course I appreciate Mr. Nosler and Joe are cooking along, they're actually fairly adept in the kitchen, so I'm almost certain you know what it is we're looking for. But if in doubt, I'll hold up the pan. Let our pasta do its thing. It would help if I remember such things as the lid for the pasta. So there we go, right, I can already see on the corner I've got some that are already starting to brown. So gents, I'm going to just do this slowly. What I'd like you to do is grab your zester. I would, but I enjoy watching more. Absolutely, this is a place to chill or to follow along, whatever you guys like. You're just welcome to be here. So, you know I said about the garlic. Take it by the end that's still uncut, but peeled. And all I want you to do is grate it straight into the shallots. So be careful with your fingers, of course. So again, we'll be able to scrape off the back. The nice trick is, here, rather than ending up with, as we've all had it, I'm sure, at a restaurant that's not quite prepared garlic properly, you end up with the slices of garlic. You end up biting into one, and unless you really like garlic, it's quite unpleasant. So also, if you want to do the 10-minute challenge, you could slightly cheat, bend the rules, shall we say, and grate it in advance, but we're not going quickly. So again, take your knife, run it into the shallots, and if like mine, they're looking like, because they're a bit small and they need just a little bit more oil, just give it a bit more oil. No one is going to judge you. So there we go, and then I want to just work that in. I can tell you something, the smell matches the sound. It's just onions and garlic. It really doesn't get much better. But the nice thing is, as I say, it will then sit in the background rather than being this overly dominant and pressing flavour. So we're just going to give that a few minutes more. Minutes, I say, just not too long. I want it still brown, but just let the garlic sort of crumble away. So then you can't really see a great deal. I'll hold mine up. So you see slightly browning there? That will do for me. So at this point, what I'm going to do is deglaze with the white wine. Now it's about 60 millilitres, but I've ever so slightly forgotten to measure this, so I'm going to just use a little because I don't want to swamp it. So that's about 60 millilitres, I'd say. Then we've got a nice, I'll tell you what, should bring us in. Let's have a look. Whoops, so Daisy. Caught on my own wire. Sorry about that, folks. There we go. So, just going to a little stir and then leave it alone. And all we want to do, whoops, a daisy, to take that off because that's boiling a bit too quick, is let all that wine evaporate. I may have picked a pan that's simply a little too small for my pasta, which is a problem when you get to my age. Well, pasta doesn't fit the pan. There we go. Let that gently do its thing. So, gents, I appreciate you may not be able to tell me, but if you're having difficulties, just type something random into the chat, and I'll know that you're having you need me to explain something or stop. Otherwise, I imagine you're getting on just fine. Our pasta seems to be doing quite well already. Just do the touch test. Oh, actually, could do a bit more water on top. It's just recently boiled, so there we go. Keep stirring that because I've got the wrong side of the pan, which is my mistake. There we go. Now you can see that wine is mostly evaporated off. Now at this stage, what we want to do, having allowed it to evaporate, we're going to add our stock, the chili flakes, the tomatoes, the lemon zest, and slice open both your lemons and give them the juice of both the lemons. So, Jess Dillons, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Welcome on in. I hope you're having a lovely day. There we go. Goodness gracious. Hello Abza and Raiding. Hello everyone from Abza's stream. How are you? Are you well? Thank you so much for coming to join us. Welcome on in. Abza, ladies and gentlemen, a fine streamer from across in Singapore, indeed. I'm very lucky, in fact. I've got lots of people from across the globe. I consider myself very privileged in that regard. So, go. So we get all of our ingredients in there. Whoops, there Daisy. Pasta's being a bit adventurous. And then just add in the juice of our Isn't he a star, Convict? Absolutely, as ever. So lovely to see you here. I hope you're having a marvellous day. So, ooh, a random cat just ran past my house. I don't know if that's a sign of something. Oops, Daisy. Don't drop your lemon in, but if you do, no one will pay attention. Just take it straight out. So, just the juice of 2 of your lemons. What we're making today, Absa, is we're doing a prawns and pasta with basil and lemon. And also, if you pay attention, as I should have been doing, you will notice not to put in the seeds of the lemon, which I shall now fish out as I'm chatting to you all, because you don't really want to eat. A more professional chef would have perhaps spotted that. As it is, we shall live them out. I'm hungry. Oh, I'm sorry. And it must be quite late in the day for you, isn't it? That's the. If it leads you in with the eyes, cooking is doing quite well. Food is a lot about the senses. It's a lot about memory as well. Food can take you back to marvellous places that you've not been to for years. And so food-based memory is, if nothing else. So I'm just going to give that a bit of a stir, because basically I'm fiddling to just try and get all of the seeds out. But what I'm also trying to do is get the tomatoes to blanch, get the liquid to reduce down just a little bit. Go. But thank you so much for the raid. Very kind of you indeed. Hello to all of Absa's chat. I hope you've been enjoying. What have you been doing today, Absa? What's the stream been today? So I find another lemon seed and remove it. How's the pasta? It is boiling ferociously. I should have perhaps, as I say, picked a better vessel for the job. Let's just give that a little... Thank you, convict. Well spotted. I'll just turn that over. Make sure the top avoids getting a bit dry. I'll just turn that gently. Also an advantage is as well that the actual sauce from the pasta cooking can act as a... In fact, I forgot the scientific side of it, but it will thicken the sauces. So this is quite thick, so I'm just going to let that simmer down a fair amount. I hope Mr. Nosler and Joe, you're doing okay. Mine's quite thin today, actually. So we'll just let that do its thing a little bit. And just boil down. Keep removing the lemon seeds, so poor Mrs. Al doesn't get one as she's biting through. There we go. So I'm looking to try and get almost a sort of the texture of when you cook a tomato in the oven. I want that kind of wrinkled outside look if possible. I think I have nearly got all of those pesky pips. In fact, for now, we might just, to avoid it drying out, pop the lid on the pasta and we'll let it steam. So here we are, and for Absa, who's now hungry as well, here we go. That's the base of our sauce. Let that reduce down a bit. And because I haven't done it for a while, let's just give it a bit of pepper as well whilst we're at it. Something I will not be doing on Saturday when I prepare the chicken wings. They are only getting the spice that they're meant to. Otherwise, I may not live to regret it. Just a quick stir, see how we're doing. That's looking quite nice now. It's starting to... In fact, as ever, let's do an all-important taste test. Let's have a look and see how we're doing. Just bring that in so you folks can see. Where's my camera? There it is. There we go. Well, thank you very much. How should we pronounce this? DG830069. What do you prefer? Or do I say the whole thing? Welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Ooh, that's got a nice kick to it. Not too much chilli this time either. Right. Now, because we've got 2 more minutes, you are very kind, sir. If we've done that, hopefully Mrs. Owl will approve, and it will tickle her taste buds. The poor lady has been working very hard today and deserves a good dinner. Now, in goes, for no more than 2 minutes, our prawns. So if you're not confident, just throw them in and then move them with your spatula. But I imagine most people here are quite happy with cooking, so I'm going to put these in a nice even circle. Mr. Nosler, Joe, if you've got your sauce nicely bubbling and simmering, pop your prawns in. You only need them in for 2 minutes. Just make sure that they're coloured on both sides. If you want to time it, absolutely do so. Yeah, don't worry. If you're ever at our house, we never make you eat straight out of the simmering pan. You are absolutely entitled to eat it out of the bowl. There we go. Right, let's put that with the rest of the washing up. No, not the dog bowl cough. So I'm going to put a 2-minute timer on, but I'm otherwise going to just use my eyes. How are you doing? Oh, Mr. Nozzler, do you need me to slow down? Are you doing all right? How are we getting on? So DG, do you like the whole thing? So DG830069, or do you like just DG or 69? Oh, you've just made me Google. You just made my Google Home go. Really? Oh, so hang on. If I were to say, "Hello Google," or no, it's not like it's "Okay Google." All is well in the super duper. So I can tell you folks that I'm approaching 1 minute. Yep, she's alive. So we're at 1 minute, so I've nearly got Mrs. Owl her dinner. So I'm just going to whip one of these out so you can just see. All it's done is coloured it white on one side. That's all I'm looking for, because it will cook in the residual heat. So I'm just going to turn them all. Again, if you don't want to burn your hands, just grab yourself a pair of tongs, will do this nicely. But they're very thin, so you don't want to cook them for very long. And then, as you can probably guess, Joe, Mr. Nozzler, the last thing that you'll have going in is your basil. So I'm going to literally give that a minute more, just as a cooking demonstration. I'm glad you think so. If you want to so the recipe is DG. Right, DG, we're going to go with DG. If you guys ever want the recipe, they're all going to be on our Discord. This one's there already. I'm just going to scrape some of this down the side. And honestly, it's one of the best pasta dishes I've had in as long as I can remember. And I'm a big fan of pasta dishes. There we go. Right. Let me just, what I'll do is I'm going to take one out, and we are just going to confirm it's cooked in the middle by slicing it in half. Because honestly, the other end of the scale is you don't want undercooked prawns. So actually that could do with maybe 20 seconds more. So let's assume the rest of them are the same. You need this, join the absolute, there it is, there's a section for it in the recipe section. It's got all the ingredients, it's all you need there. And if you fancy doing it and trying the 10-minute challenge, let me know how you get on. Because I must admit, I'd much prefer doing this at a slower pace, I really do. So that's an extra 20 seconds. Joe, Mr. Nozzler, if you're in doubt, cut one of the... Quite right, DG. Let's see how we are now at the finale. It's got a nice kick of lemon. Got that afterglow of the white wine. Lift that off for a second. In goes our fresh basil. Let's get the rest of this up. Not even going to cook this on the heat. It can take it. So just gently roll that through, and then gonna let that sit for a second. There we go. We're just going to drain our pasta. In fact, I really like my new pans Mrs. Howell suggested, and we got them because they've got an actual drainer on the side. So let's just get the pasta water out. Oops, it's easy. It's quite heavy. Oops. I promise I'm not relieving myself of all pasta water. Oops. So here we are. So for those cooking along, Joe, Mr. Nozzler, you can do it either way. I've got the wrong size pan basically, so I'm going to put the pasta into the sauce. I'm going to put about half of it in. So then let's just start with half. 2 implements. Let's just get a nice, work the pasta through the sauce so you get a nice spread of it all. There we go. Are you ready? We're nearly there, and I hope the gents are going well. I'll be delighted to see any photos, guys, you've got of your show us how you got along. So now I'm going to put the rest in. Forgive my fingers here, just do it for speed. There we go. So then I'm just going to get the last of it in, nice and gentle. This, as I say, is my far preferred method of cooking this. And thank you, Mr. Thank you for, how am I going to pronounce that? Parish. I got it, Parish. Hello, Parish. Welcome on in. Thank you very much. And Tangled, I'm glad you like the look of it. I promise it's worth doing this recipe. I wouldn't, unless you feel like the cooking challenge, 10 minutes, you feel very sort of paced and rushed. This is the far nicer way to produce this dish. So there we go. So that's got the pasta nicely covered. So, I've got a bit of a bomb site around here, but let's just clean that out. Move this out of the way. Let's do a proper plate up, shall we? Right. I'm going to just bring you guys around for a second. Let's just wipe down slightly. Let's move that out of the way. So we go. Right. And straight from Korea, one of Mrs. Al's favourite places. Yeah, nice little bowls, good again for portion controlling. You could do it more dramatically in a black bowl, but we've done black bowls. We're going to do nice little bowls today. So let's try and get a nice, neat little bit of the pasta in. Oops, that's not neat at all, but oops, a daisy. The last time I did this, I was practically throwing it in the bowl for speed. I'll clean the edges out slightly. There we go. I'll eat that bit. Yes, very well cooked. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Right, let's put some prawns on the top there. There we go. Get a little bit of the sauce too. Let's just... And then last little dressing with the basil. Chaps, I hope you're doing well. So I'm just going to roughly tear some of the basil up. Take the bare bowl. So just a little sprinkle of the fresh basil on top. A little grated pepper. Get rid of that. Can we, have I got any paper? I'll just wash it down slightly. So, and there we are, folks. In your little bear bowl, prawns, pasta, little grated pepper on the top. Et voila. And plenty more for seconds. Let's just bring this down here. There we go. Oop, pardon the camera angles. I shall repeat the same now with the other. I think Mrs. Al may be on the phone, I'm not sure. So let's just, and then fairly untidily repeat. Oh dear me, I'm making a mess of the second one off shot, folks. Oops, a doodle. That's a lot of pasta in a very small target. Oh, there we go. Food is your girlfriend. Food, you know, you need a healthy relationship with food. It's got to be nourishing. It can't be acting against you, but also it's got to be food for the soul as well. A combination of all three, and you can't go too far wrong. So I'm just going to finish that one up. So again, a couple of grates of basil. there. And then there we go. There we are, folks. From start to finish, in pleasant little bowls, we have got our pasta, prawns, basil and lemon. Someone else gonna... That's Mrs. Owls. So just do a quick taste test, see how we are. And then that'll be it for us for this evening. So let's just give you a view. Hopefully, Joe, Mr. Nosley, you're doing well. I hope you're all there. So I'll just try and get a bit of all of it. It's much better for doing it slowly and with excellent company. If you guys want the recipe, I thoroughly recommend it. It's not gone wrong for us so far. Get a nice hit of the basil. The lemon has a lovely zing. Got the pepper that just gives a tiny bit of heat. And because you spent for a while making up the base, it's delicious. All credit goes to Gordon Ramsay. It's his recipe. I've just sort of tailored and tweaked it and... And it works wonders. So, as I already put a little bit extra in mind to go and have dinner with, I'm going to say thank you to everyone who joined us. Joe, Mr. Nosler, I do hope you can send us a picture and tell us how it looks, how you got on, that it meets up to expectations. Smoke, thank you very much. I implore you all to give it a go. It's a lovely, lovely dish. Can I thank, in no particular order, everyone for being here for a start, our new followers, our raiders from Abs and his channel. Thank you very much. You're always welcome. And we may be back tomorrow, depending on work. I may, however, give it a pause and a break before we come on Saturday for the big special, our Thank You for Reaching affiliate stream, where we do hot wings, the Hot Ones Challenge. And if you're here, we will answer any questions from the audience in the First We Feast style. But whilst they're hot, I'm going to, at this point, say, always add a bit more extra pepper. No, not that. Toodaloo, everyone. Have a marvellous, marvellous evening. I will now give Mrs. Owl her dinner. Promo, yes, I will be here. I'm throwing forks around this Saturday. Everybody, take care. Have a marvellous evening. We'll see you again soon. Toodaloo for now.